Kindaichi wasn't lying when he told others they didn't argue with Kunimi. Far from it, actually. But the atmosphere in their house was not normal, to say the least. A heavy, invisible weight as if hung above their heads at all times ever since the accident, turning their usually so calm and peaceful home into a tension-filled box that felt more like a trap to Kindaichi than anything else. And the worst thing was he couldn't get out, neither physically nor mentally. He was glad he could make 10 steps at a time with the help of the crutches, the heavy construction on his leg, both around the bone and outside around his thigh, along with the still injured spleen and muscles preventing him from doing practically anything. At least the pain in his abdomen subsided a bit when his pelvic bone started to heal, and he could at least sit and sleep without having to take a ton of painkillers. According to the doctors, his recovery was going well, though he had his doubts about that. But perhaps the ever-present pain was one of the reasons why everything seemed off. Or perhaps... Aki, can you not leave the pillows and blankets all over the couch all the time? You can just sit on it, I don't mind. Sighing, Kindaichi forced himself to take a few deep breaths to settle the little flame of irritation igniting in his chest yet again before it turned into a fire. But I do. You know I need a straight surface under me. At least come push it away. I can't move with it when I'm standing. Perhaps one of the sources of the strange tension between them lay somewhere else too. Kunimi had spent most of the days by his side when he was still at hospital. Kindaichi was immensely grateful for that, having his beloved by his side when he needed him the most being the source of his strength. However, something seemed to change since he was allowed to go home. He couldn't put his finger on it, no matter how much he tried, but he could swear Kunimi suddenly started to act as if everything was the same as before. Almost as if he forgot about the full extent of Kindaichi's injuries. Kindaichi tried to not think stuff like that, always mentally berating himself for thinking badly about his fiancée. But as the days went and their views on how serious his state was clashed again and again, he couldn't help the occasional intrusive voice in his head whispering to him that his partner just didn't care. He hated it. He knew the voice wasn't right. He knew Kunimi cared. Why else would he offer to move to sleep on the couch instead of their bed despite Kindaichi being against it, too worried he could accidentally bump into his injuries? But moments like this, when he told Kunimi something so many times and he still didn't follow through, slowly but surely started to crack the walls of his resolve. Don't tell me you can't push it away on your own. Despite his words, Kunimi quickly removed the pillows and blankets he hoarded for the night. And yet Kindaichi had to hold back with everything he had not to snap something back. There, all good. Thanks. He carefully settled down on the couch, hissing several times when the pain shot through his whole body. A fleeting urge to turn around and see how Kunimi reacted to that took over his mind, but his neck was still too sore to turn all the way around. Which was a fact the annoying, intrusive voice used to serve him mental images he definitely didn't want to see. He quickly chased them away, but the voice stayed. Are you still working? It didn't took long before Kunimi appeared in his field of view, his expression as neutral as always. He doesn't care at all. No, I already finished. Why? I need help with changing the bandages and with the bolts. Just that? This time, Kindaichi couldn't stop himself in time from growling lowly under his breath. Yes, just that. Sorry is such a hassle for you. A barely visible flinch scrunched Kunimi's face, enough for Kindaichi to feel bad about his tone. Not about his words, though. Why do you have such a problem with everything these days? I don't. It's just... there's a lot to do, you know, since you have to rest. And I don't know what to do first. What about helping me without me asking for once? You could bring me the bandages. The bag should be in the bathroom. He let out a deep sigh after Kunimi disappeared to the bathroom, the irritation he tried so hard to suppress smoldering in his chest. He had always hated when people called Kunimi lazy, knowing well his partner was just efficient in a different way. But suddenly, he may have started to see where they were coming from. Stop, you are being unfair. But as Kunimi returned and handed him the bag, making no other effort to help except for standing slightly aside, the smoldering flickered with flame. Are you just going to stand there? Kunimi blinked in confusion. Well, I thought you might want to try it on your own today. You know, practice in case I might not be available to help out. You are feeling better already, right? So it might be a good time to... He fell silent when Kindaichi sighed again, this time in frustration. You really aren't bothered at all, huh? Kunimi paused, the confusion on his face mixing with shock as his eyes widened a fraction. Of course I am. I just think that it's not that bad that you couldn't... Red flashed in front of Kindaichi's eyes. He balled his hands, feeling his jaw clenching to the point of hurting. Not so bad? Are you serious? My whole left side is fucked and it's not so bad? He could see Kunimi recoil and cover a bit, but couldn't bring himself to care. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? You've been acting weird since I came back from hospital. Is it such a bother for you to help me out when I can barely move? Don't yell at me. I'm trying my best. Kindaichi scoffed. This is your best? Seriously? Yeah, not everyone is used to taking care of others like you. I'm barely able to take care of myself. Oh yeah? And what would you do if I died there, huh? Follow you. What else? The temperature in the room dropped several degrees, a heavy silence settling right after, interrupted only by hitched breathing. Kindaichi froze, his blood running cold when the full meaning behind Kunimi's words hit him. The mist rose from his mind, and his breath got caught in his throat when he finally fully noticed the tears streaming down Kunimi's cheeks. Aki. He didn't get further before Kunimi bolted away, hand covering his mouth, disappearing from Kindaichi's sight. Aki, wait! He instinctively turned around and immediately groaned in pain. But even then, he could hear Kunimi stumbling up the stairs and the bang of one of the doors, soon followed by a too loud click of the lock. Fuck! Gritting his teeth, he pushed against the sharp pain in his whole lower body and stood up, wavering before he managed to lean on the crutches. Painfully slow, he made his way to the stairs, cursing under his breath with every step he took, the needles jabbing into his nerves becoming daggers, stabbing and cutting all the way to his bones. The road that would usually take him 10 seconds now took him 5 minutes and left him sweaty and breathing heavily. But he couldn't care less about that now. He recognized the panic in Kunimi's eyes, the pain and fear and tears he never wanted to see again, and yet was now the cause of. The door to their bedroom was closed, the faint sounds of anguish coming from behind it breaking Kindaichi's heart. He tried to knock on the door, but his leg gave up under him the moment he let go of the crutch, almost sending him to the ground if he didn't lean on the doorframe. Damn it! His chest still heaving as if he just ran a marathon, he knocked softly on the door, afraid a louder sound could send Kunimi into even deeper distress. Aki? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you, or say those things to you. I know it's not an excuse, for nothing what I said, but I mean it, I swear. He gritted his teeth as the whole left side of his body started to burn as if it got lit on fire, and yet the chill from Kunimi's words that kept repeating themselves in his head kept him frozen in place. Follow you, what else? Please don't do anything stupid. Please. You don't have to forgive me or let me in now. I understand. But please. A sharp pain shot through his abdomen, knocking the air out of his lungs. His mind blanked out for a second, the scorching feeling spreading into his whole body like a wildfire. The next thing he knew was the sound of the door being unlocked, and then he almost fell into Kunimi's arms. Careful. Come sit down, okay? Kindaichi just nodded, suddenly unsure what to say. He felt the hesitation in Kunimi's touch, heard the tears in his voice, saw the still fresh wet trails on his skin. And yet, despite everything, Kunimi was now helping him sit down on the bed. As if someone who doesn't care did that. He suppressed a pain groan when the mattress sunk a bit under him, but the pain was short-lived, soon replaced by relief. Knowing what Kunimi was about to do, he caught his hand before he could let go of him and ran away into another room, his heart shattering to pieces when Kunimi flinched under his touch as if he expected pain. Stay here, please. Let's talk about it. The look of panic in Kunimi's eyes even intensified before they filled with tears again. But, please, Aki, don't run away from me. Come here. He gently tugged on Kunimi's hand, guiding him to his right leg to sit on. Kunimi had to realize what he was doing and froze for a beat before backing away as far as their still connected hands allowed him. No, it won't. Aki, I can't. I'll hurt you again. Don't. Again? You won't, I promise. It's the healthy side. It'll be fine. Trust me, please. Hesitantly, like a small animal expecting an attack, Kunimi settled on Kindaichi's thigh, watching Kindaichi closely despite probably not being able to see much. Kindaichi shook his head and hugged him, pulling him as close to his chest as possible. Don't. I'm sorry, love. I'm so sorry. He felt Kunimi stilling in his arms and already berated himself for moving too fast, when Kunimi wrapped his arms around him too, clinging to him for dear life as the dam broke. Tears soaked the back of his t-shirt as Kunimi's shoulders wrenched with muffled sobs, his ears flooded with a waterfall of words from which he only understood sorry and useless, repeated again and again. He continued to caress soothing circles into Kunimi's back and side, whispering quiet reassurances into his ear while letting him cry as much as he needed. There was no rush. I'm sorry. Shh. It's okay. You have nothing to apologize for. But it's my fault. All of this. Shh. That's not true. What are you talking about? If I didn't call you, it wouldn't happen. You wouldn't get into the crash and everything would. Kindaichi pulled him even closer to himself if it was humanly possible, the dull ache in his chest from his already broken heart only intensifying. How could he not notice it before? How could he overlook the crushing guilt Kunimi had to feel to break down like this? Was that the reason behind Kunimi's words earlier? Or did it just fuel them? He wasn't sure which option was worse. Aki, love, that crash wasn't your fault. None of what happened is your fault, so don't say things like that, okay? But that guy crashed into me because he lost control. Even if I noticed his car, I wouldn't be able to move out of the way in time because I was standing still. It was an accident. None of it was your fault. He pressed a soft kiss into Kunimi's hair, feeling his grip on him tightening. I could never blame you for an accident. A broken sob tore from Kunimi's throat. I was so scared. Hearing you and then suddenly the crash and you were silent no matter how I shouted. I thought you. His voice broke into another choked sob. He buried his face into Kindaichi's shoulder. I thought I was going to die too. Guilt jabbing in his chest, Kindaichi tightened his own embrace on Kunimi, only taking care of not hurting him on accident. Please don't talk like this. Even Even if I died there, I want you to live on, to be happy again. Don't follow me if something happens to me. Please, I beg you. He pulled away just enough to take Kunime's face in his palms, gently wiping the tears from his lashes. Please promise me that. Sniffing softly, Kunime hid his face in his shoulder again, clinging to his t-shirt. Only if you promise me you'll be careful. That you won't leave me here alone. Kindaichi bit his lip, nuzzling into the soft black hair. I promise. I love you. More than anything. I love you too. Above everything.